Hello, everyone. Welcome to day two of the Glyn Launch. Please let me know in the comments if you can hear me. Just like yesterday, there's going to be a 10-second lag in um, my voice. So on X and on YouTube, there's going to be a 10-second lag. And when the speakers are on stage too, you are going to hear whatever we say 10 seconds later. I hope that's not going to ruin the experience for you, but it's based on the platforms and not on anything I can control. So yeah, thank you very much, guys, for joining us today. I'm going to start today's stream with Glyn's Reel once again, and then we are going to get started. Just give me a second to share my screen. Okay, right. All right, yeah, so let's get today started. Yesterday, welcome to the day two of the Glyn Launch once again. And if you have anything you want to say about this conversation, you can put those in the comments, and you can also use the hashtag Glyn Launch so we can keep track of everything once we are done with the event. Yeah, yesterday we covered the who, what, why, and where Glyn exists and why am I doing this. And today we are going to be covering the how. So a quick recap of yesterday. I spoke about myself, how long I've been designing, the influences of my parents, my love for cats, and what I've been up to in the past 5 years, getting my Bachelor of Arts and my master's degree in management. And how the name Glyn is my dad's name, and the studio, the name, everything is a homage to him because of his influence in my life and how he's guided me through my journey across life. So what Glyn is a brand design studio, building brands that consumers choose and competitors study. That is a very bold statement for Glyn and something we want to live by now and in the future. And why am I doing this? Because in my journey, it is time for me to take the next step. I've learned a lot over the past few years, and I know I still have a lot to learn, and I will definitely learn a lot. But it's time for me to take that next step because I just can't see myself doing what I've been doing before, and I need to take a bigger leap in my life. And you know, I'm very particular. I'm very peculiar about culture and design, organizational culture, the culture in the society and stuff. And Glen exists in between design and culture and strategy and business because we want to work with businesses and we want to help them go to market or present themselves to the world in the best way possible. So now the how. So how do I want to go about doing this? I mean, there are multiple ways I'm going to do this, but I'm currently developing a framework that I would like to share with you guys. And so I call it the soul framework. And because we at Glen, we believe that brand deserve souls. Brand deserve an essence that when you strip everything down, when you strip them down to the barest atom, what are you going to find, right? And so to be able to achieve that, it's not going to be by just designing. It's not just going to be by creating amazing visuals. It's to be entrenched in the culture, in the strategy, and the expressions of the brand, right? So this is like an overview of the framework. I'm not going to go too much into it on this call, or on this stream rather, but it's still something that is in development. And once it's fully well developed, I'm going to share it to the world. It's going to be on the Glyn website, so that people and the people who support me, people who support Glyn and prospective clients, are going to understand what Glyn is and how we aim to help them solve business challenges. And so at the core of what we want to do is the brand soul, is the brand idea. The when you reduce the brand again to a simpler atom, what are you going to find? But to be able to achieve this, we need the people, we need the story, we need the design, and we need the experience, because brands are built over experiences. And so underneath the people, you have the culture. So again, in the downs sorry at the core of it all is the brand. So, and it is the one irreducible truth about why the brand exists and what it stands for. So if tomorrow the brand was to fold up, what would the world lose if that brand was to fold up? What kind of impact is that brand making in the lives of the people who are using it? Is this something that is going to make a lasting impact people are going to miss, or is this something that people will be like, I never even knew they existed, or I never even knew they closed, right? So what would the world lose or miss if this brand was to stop existing today? And that is the impact they are going to have in the world. So we want to help create impactful brands that, shape culture the right way, brands that push the narrative. So to achieve anything in life, you need people, no matter the frameworks, the infrastructure, you need people to be able to execute, to buy into the vision, to be able to support the vision, to support everything you want to do. And so people are core in the soul framework, and these people imbibe the culture of what the soul framework is all about, or of what businesses are all about in the first place. Every successful or unsuccessful business today is down to the people, everybody from the founder to the least person on the hierarchy, whatever they did to ensure the brand was successful or what failed in the first place. So how do we reinforce the culture? Is always through rituals and partnerships. So what are the things you reinforce? So the culture is the lived expressions of the soul internally. So the culture is internal, but it extends beyond the internal, right? I always say happy employees create happy customers. Like when you see a brand where the employees care enough about the brand, it's going to trickle down in the way they express or the way they showcase the brand when they are interacting with customers, right? Again, if the people don't care about the brand that much, it's going to spill out, because customers don't really interact with the brand, because the brand is an abstract construct. They interact with people, and it is these people, they are not going to say X person of Y brand gave me a bad experience. It's going to be Y brand, I had a bad experience with Y brand, because they had a bad experience with somebody in that brand, right? So the people are very, very important, and it's important that these people also know why they need to embody the brand, so the brand values and everything the brand decides to portray itself as. Then we also have the story, which feeds into the strategy, and that's all about the positioning and differentiation. Why does this brand exist? Where is this trying to exist in the mind of customers? Where is it trying to position itself, and how different it is to other competitors or other brands in the same space. So the strategy is going to ask, what does the market need, and the business will try to respond to that. But the soul is all about, what are we uniquely positioned to do? So if the market needs this and we can provide that, how can we do it in a way that is uniquely us? Because then people can copy your solution, but then you are able to do it your own way, which is something they can't copy, because once that is copied, it is apparent that they copied everything about you to become there, and then they become the version B of your brand. Whereas you are able to retain your unique position, because what you are offering is way beyond just the solution itself. And then we go to the design, which is the expression of the brand. So the brand idea is an abstract construct, and but one of the ways people can interact with it is also how it presents itself to the world. What are people seeing, or what are the touch points people are interacting with this, and how are they experiencing those touch points? And so you have the visual and the verbal identity in this. So how does it look visually? How does it sound? Or how what is the tone or what is the way you are communicating to people and how you are saying these specifically. Then you have experience. Sorry. So yeah, basically just a representation of what I was saying just now. And then you have experience, which is all about how are people experiencing the brand. So what are the touch points people are experiencing the brand and how are they being serviced? Is it being intentional? So again, like I said earlier, people interact with customers interact with people. Customers interact with people who work in these brands, and then how is the experiences being curtailed? How is the experiences being championed? These are very important, and every brand who tries to compete fairly wants one thing, to be the market leader in whatever they are trying to do, to be the de facto go-to guys, to have the brand loyalty. And in today's world, that is getting harder and harder for brands to have. But then with curated experiences and well-intentioned experiences, you can set yourself on the path in the long run to own that loyalty. So yeah, this is like the SOAR framework in a nutshell. Again, it's something that is currently still being developed, but as soon as I am done with the framework, I'll be able to share more about it. So yeah, brand love and loyalty is built over experiences, and experiences that have been well created by people who care enough, by brands with a soul. As simple as that. And the framework, the process and the framework we are trying to use for this is to uncover the brand, to understand the brand in the first place, and to find what can be the brand soul, what can be exactly why the brand exists, even maybe beyond what the founders themselves say it is, but we find a unique angle to anchor the brand soul to. Then we align everything again to the people, to the strategy, to ensure that whatever we are trying to create aligns well with what with what the people can support, the people can indoctrinate, because there's one thing to have a brand culture or the brand values and everything, but there's also the undocumented part of it. You could have a documented part on your documents, brochures and whatever that says this is who we are, but how are people actually living the brand, right? How are people actually portraying themselves in the workplace? What are those things that are not written in those books, either good or bad, that you are letting exist, which should not exist in the first place because it goes against what you're trying to do? So when we say, with Airbnb now, who says belong anywhere, and then their staff are probably racist or they discriminate in one way or another, they are making people not belong anywhere. And then if you experience that in the context of Airbnb, you start feeling like you guys are not living up to the promise you made, right? And then again, you experience that from an Airbnb employee, not the founder, not the brand, but you associate that to the brand, you associate that to the founder, because again, your brand did not live to the promise it made to me. All right. So we need to make sure that the people can actually support what we are trying to create. And then we express that through the visual and verbal identity, and then the experience, bring everything to life across various touch points. And so there's a project we are currently working on in team for Durian, and I'm working on it with Akin Theodox, Collins Odo, and Teslim Abu, where we are collaborating together, trying out the SOAR framework in a real context to see what we can do. Although on this project, what I'm going to share focuses more on the visual and the verbal side of things. But Durian basically is a AI platform that helps businesses save time in a nutshell. So in the US, small businesses lose millions of dollars to missed calls, and then, when you are a business trying to service one customer and then another customer is trying to make an inquiry, or they're trying to call at late hours, you are not able to juggle all of those at the same time, because if you leave the customer you're serving to go answer a call, you are giving that customer a bad experience. And if you don't pick up your call, you probably may lose that customer to, another client or to business, right? So through these, businesses are losing a lot of money. And then Durian came up with a solution. What if you could actually save time by outsourcing some of the work you try to do to, their platform, and then you carry on doing what you want to do? Because every small business tries to start off a business to do something, maybe something they love or something they are good at, and they want to do that. But when you start doing it, you find yourself being embroidered in a lot of admin work, a lot of things you never signed up for in the first place. I know what the amount of things I needed to learn once I started in this journey, and I just wished there was another me. I wish there was a me that could be doing something else. So when we thought of that, so yeah, this is the durian logo, and it's animated by Teslim Abu. So when we thought of durian, we thought of what could be the brand idea, and we felt like presence is care. Like when you distill everything durian is trying to do, it's that your service needs your presence, right? And even that is you physically or our platform doing that for you. Every customer wants to feel that presence. Every customer wants to know that you are right there with them in the moment of you interacting with them or you carrying out that service. So we came up with the brand narrative that always be present as the brand idea, where even though there's only one you, there's almost like duplicates of you, where you are able to service every customer. So you're able to service the physical ones that are in your workspace or in your shop or in your store, but you're also able to service those who are trying to make inquiries or those who will call at late at night, where you're also trying to juggle being present with your family. So the presence we are talking about covers beyond your work, because again, when we look at the small businesses, when they are trying to work maybe 9 to 9 or more hours than that, something has to suffer. It could be the family, it could be their health, it could be their presence in their own lives themselves. Something suffers, and we are trying to say, okay, when we looked at the competition and everybody was trying to say the same thing, never miss a call, never miss a customer, never miss that. And we felt like if we say the same thing, then we are just drowning in the noise of never miss. But what if there was an emotional angle to what we are trying to say? Because these are people who, they don't have the budget to become bigger companies. They don't have the bandwidth to even take on as much customers that are coming their way in the first place. So what if our copies and the way we spoke to them spoke to the emotional core of understanding, their mindset, understanding their business frustrations, understanding their life frustrations? What if that could be a better way for us to reach this audience than just trying to sell them with features and benefits? I mean, we are still going to sell them with features and benefits, but we do not lead with that. So we spent a lot of time crafting the copies and, the tone of voice for the brand himself, because it was super important that it felt emotional. So, these are just some images that shows the presence is care brand idea, and then you being present in the lives of in your own life or in the lives of your family. So when we worked on this project, we explored a lot. I think every single part of this project was something that we spent so much time on, more time than I would care to admit in the first place. So we came up with this color palette, which were sort of based on the durian fruit itself, and also the kind of feeling we wanted to communicate for this brand in the first place. And then, so we also created gradients out of it, because when you are being present, so we're thinking about football, for instance, and heat maps is something that is used in football a lot, where the heat map shows every place where a football player touched on the pitch. And then when you have yourself aggregating in a particular part of the pitch, you have much more presence in that pitch. And then we saw that heat maps are also used in other facets of life and stuff. And we brought that to help us reinforce the visual language. So that needed us to create gradients. So we created gradient from the colors we picked, and we explored a lot of gradients also, but we narrowed it down to 10. Then we also wanted to, we felt like this was going to be an expressive brand because of the ways we wanted to talk, and we couldn't just limit that to one typeface. So we explored a lot of typefaces, from condensed to serifs to sans serif. So we picked one from each, and we played this elimination game just to kind of like look at typefaces we liked or didn't like, and then we kept reducing them till we got to the final one. So that way, it was also that we cared about every way we were trying to represent the brand, and it was not just something we did on the whim or something we felt good. It was also something, even the ones we picked, we had to test them across various creatives or designs to be able to know that, yeah, this actually works for what we want to try to express, and not just looking at what works well. Also, the photography we also tried to show was also from the family stand. So we had different directions for the photography, ones that spoke to receptionists, but the ones I'm showing today kind of like speaks to the family angle or the emotional angle of what we are trying to show. So these were the heat maps I was talking about earlier. I think I did put a tutorial online around when I was exploring this last year, but this is a different version of that, like a more final version of that, of the heat maps, and we were able to use this in the brand's visual language. We also created some brand elements to just help us carry on those expressions, and we focused on the shapes that makes up the logo. So the ellipse and the half circles that makes up the logo. And the logo, by the way, is just an expression of, so the ellipse is more like the person, the small business owner, and the blobs around it are like more duplicated version of that person's self, being so it just reinforces the idea of always be present. So you're always present. So there are like multiple versions of you existing for yourself and making your life easy. And so these were also other various brand expressions we create. So some of the copies and direction we showed were like present always everywhere. So if you are able to be present in your business, that may mean, so if we save you 2 hours of time in your business by you not bothering about calls, or you not bothering about reviews online and stuff like that, that could save you 2 hours of closing earlier than expected. If you know that your calls are handled and you don't have to check your phone every time, that could make you be more present in when it's family time. So you could leave work at work and be with family, and not when you are with family, you're also trying to pick a call because I can't lose this customer, or somebody's trying to make an inquiry, and stuff like that. So present always everywhere. We also wrote a copy where she's only to one. So do not miss your child's childhood. You are trying to make a better life for this child, but you are not present in the child's life because you are busy focusing on what will make that child's life better. And then your child is going to grow up and say you were never there. So these are just emotional touch points where we are trying to meet the customers where they are, to just kind of like feel like, yeah, I need this. Yeah, this speaks to me and I need this. If this can solve my problem, then I'm down for it. So be there for the moments worth remembering, again, from the family angle. We also try to highlight the different kind of people who could use the software. So from fitness coaches to, IT technicians, to people who work at cafes or spas. As long as you're a small business, you are able to use this tool, and it could make a big difference, in your business and in your life. So we also wrote copies like, I went to check my daughter's recital without checking my phone, or I went to my daughter's recital without checking my phone. It's like you are able to be present for your daughter because that is the moment that feels so great for your daughter. And imagine your daughter trying to perform on stage looking at you, and then she sees you trying to pick a call. That could just ruin her performance. So again, these are just ways we felt like we could easily connect with the audience. Again, so these are just also highlighting people who would use the Durian software, and these are places where we use the heat maps as background elements for maybe social media copies or social media posts or ads, and all those things. Again, using the visual elements and the copies together. We also created some illustrations to just also might make the brand a little bit less serious. And so we created various illustrations, both using the gradients and using flat colors. And these are just expressions like that. It was also super important to let the receptionists of these businesses know that they are not being replaced, but it's just they are being supported, because the receptionist in any small business probably doing 2 to 3 roles. And imagine if one of them could just be take off your list. So in a spa, the masseuse could easily become a receptionist too, right? And then if the masseuse is trying to carry out a massage and then somebody knocks on the door, she can't leave the massage to go answer the person at the door, right? So it's super important that they know that this tool is not replacing them, it's just supporting them. So we wrote copies on that, which I think this is the only one I'm showing in this case study. But yeah, so I think that's it for the how Glyn wants to go about, working with businesses, the finding connections in the places where you may not find connections, finding meaning in the places where it may even look like you are doing too much trying to find meaning in these things. Just do something great and let it roll out. But we really want to go into places and industries that maybe may not have meaning and give them meaning, right? And make brands, the kind of brands we work with, stand out better in these places. So I think that is it from me, in terms of the who, the what, the why, the where, and the how Glyn wants to exist in the world and the space I'm trying to carve for myself in the great design space that we already have. So with that being said, our guest speakers and panelists are waiting in the corridor, ready for me to bring them in. So if anybody has a question, this is the right time to ask, or else we will just move to the next phase of today. So yeah, let me know, guys. Okay. All right, one sec. Yeah, I think a project like this, I honestly don't know, but I think if I'm going to put a ballpark, it's going to be 3 to 4 months to be able to capture everything we want to capture. But again, like I said, we have different. So Glyn has different ways of serving clients. So we have the launch pad, which is like a 3-week design sprint. We are not going to go this deep into working on projects like that because you just need a go-to market kind of thing. But we also have the anchor, which is more like a project like this, and that takes 3 to 4 months for us to be able to, cover every base and do everything needed to achieve what we are trying to achieve. Because things like this they take time, and it's not something you can just rush like that. So yeah. Okay, does anybody have any question again? Okay, all right. So let's move to. Okay, I think there's a question. Yeah, I think it took us. It took us about. We are not done with the project yet because we are currently in the website phase of the project, and we are currently redesigning the website. But the brand design phase took us about, I think, 10 weeks to finish it. Yeah, so we still have about 2 more weeks to go in our initial timeline to be able to. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think it was about 10 weeks. Yeah. Okay. So, so in the second phase of this launch, I'm bringing 3 of the best people to have ever happened to design in Nigeria come speak to us about their journeys, about how they've been able to navigate the design field, starting their studios, creating awesome work for clients in Nigeria and outside of Nigeria. And, we are going to have interesting conversations. So the first person I'm bringing to the stage is someone I call the Jose Mourinho of design. My very good friend, Ikojo Ameji. And is somebody whose journey I've been able to witness. I think not from the beginning, but at some point in the journey, and I've loved how he's been able to grow and the things he's been able to achieve. So, I'm introducing you to the audience. Any quick introduction?
There's no quick introduction. Bring my senior people on top of this call. Me and me. Bring them up so that let me talk to people I'm talking
to. All right, that is an introduction in its own. Again, it's the Jose Mourinho. It's not this humble, but I think in the presence of somebody as experienced as Mary Afolabi and the things she has been able to achieve with Fort Canvas, I think I can understand the humility. So the second person I'm bringing on stage is somebody you all know, and it's somebody who's played a pivotal role in shaping brands in Nigeria and across Africa. Everybody loves Fort Canvas. Everybody loves the people at Fort Canvas. And Mary Afolabi is one of those people who has shaped design across Nigeria and Africa. So welcome to the stage, Mary.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. Good to be here. Can
Yeah,
everyone hear me?
yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Hello,
Hi,
Ameji.
I think good in it.
Hi, Paul.
Hi, Mary.
Congratulations on Glyn, man. Really
Thank,
solid work. You guys are already
thank you very much.
firing in ways.
Thank you very
Well
much.
done.
Thank you very much. I'm honored you are here. I'm honored to be in your presence. So the last person I'm introducing is probably the goats of design in Nigeria. The Lionel Messi. He designs as a playmaker, as a striker, as a winger, as a dribbler, as everything. He's everything. Think about anything in design, and I think he has dabbled into it. He's somebody we all look up to. He's somebody we wish we could be. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm introducing you to New York.
Thank you very much. So my camera is having issues.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, is everybody ready for us to, go into questions, or you all want to take a moment to soak it all in? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have about 6 rounds of questions, and there will be conversations in these questions. There will be individual questions to people. There will be, questions that anybody who wants to answer is free to answer, and we can have those conversations, right? So let's be free with our opinions. People in the audience are looking to learn a lot from you guys, to learn from your journeys. I know there are people who may be looking to make this transition, or they may want to know what it takes to make this transition, and how much work or how much knowledge you need to have to do this in the first place. So yeah, Ameji, the first question will go to you. As so, what was the specific moment you knew you just couldn't stay as a freelancer anymore? When you realized that freelancing had a ceiling you needed to break through from.
Okay, so I don't think freelancing itself had like a ceiling,
Okay.
Because there are people that are making millions doing design on their own, right? So that's not like the issue. But I think for me, it was more or less the distance that you could go with freelancing,
Yeah.
especially from Nigeria. There was a limitation to it, and around 2024, I then started to dabble into the whole online hustle space. I discovered a guy named Alex Hormozy. He has been like a big influence on my life since then. And basically, it was just this thing where I sort of realized that if I wanted to do something that would last a very long time, I sort of needed other people to be in like the midst of it, and building something that could run without me. Just to basically come in, set the foundation, build it, and scale it, and then be able to live my life and dabble into other things because I have other ideas. I have other things that I want to get into. I think brand design has given me like the starting tool, right? But in terms of freelancing, it was fun, but then I sort of realized that there were limitations to what I could do individually, like me myself. And so if I wanted to work with like the best people, if I wanted to like compete on like the global scale, it meant like getting the best hands possible and bringing them to like work on a shared vision. And that's basically what I've been doing with Tony and Co since last year. So yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. For people who don't know, who is Alex Omozi?
Okay, Alex Hormozy is the founder of acquisition.com. He was someone that basically started from Gym Launch, and the guy, he is someone that, should I say, has hacked the business world. Like someone that has a good understanding of like service-based industries, and basically what you need to do to go from zero to your first 10K, from 10K to your first 100K, from your first 100K to your first 1 million, to your first 10 million, to your first 100 million. He has written 3 books: $100 million offers, $100 million leads, $100 million models. I read $100 million offers, and I followed it word for word. And that book was basically how to get you from 0 to 10K. And by God's grace, I've been able to hit that goal. And so, like, um, um, it's just basically that. So he's someone that, like, should I say, if you should search him up, you can search for any business problem that you're facing right now, and he has an answer for it, like a practical, no nonsense answer without any calls, any sales, nothing. Like, you just see it on YouTube there, and yeah.
Okay, great. So, anyone in the audience, if you're trying to go from 0 to 10K or to a million, you should check out Alex Omozi, and you should check out Ameji too. He's probably got some tips for you too. So Mary, over to you. So looking back at the early years of, you starting design, you joining Fort Canvas, what did you think an agency was back then, and what have you learned that it actually is now?
Okay, so this is what is funny. I don't think I was thinking about what an agency really was when I first started designing, to be honest. I just remember that I just liked doing great stuff, nice looking designs, and
Yeah.
then did that for a couple of years, got into uni, did some more, started teaching people. Then after school, got a call from my friend Tunji Ogunye, who asked if I wanted to join Fort Canvas. And that was the first time that I was going to really interact with an agency. And I remember the first time that he called me if I was going to come. I was in Ibadan, and then he calls me, and then I'm like, "So you mean we're going to be going to work every day, right? We're going to be coming to," and I'm like, "Are we going to really be designing every day?" So that's to tell you how indeed clueless I was. I just enjoyed doing the stuff, but I didn't really think too much about it. So when I joined Fort Canvas, of course, that knowledge got updated, and I realized that I always wanted to do something around this. Really, it just was that I didn't think of the fact that it was going to be like an agency or even in Nigeria, really. So I would say that, of course, working in an agency updated my knowledge of what it now means to have an agency, which
Yeah.
is that you not only are able to churn out really great work, your business is sustainable as well. So it's like several other layers, like having great talent. So we have like our flywheels, which we started to develop internally to help us make sense of what really makes Fort Canvas Fort Canvas. Right. So again, all of these things I believe we really grew into understanding because of the experiences that we've encountered in the course of doing work, really. So yeah, I hope that answers your
Yeah,
question.
definitely. So when you were going through this transformation, I think you guys have had to learn on the fly, because I think there was probably not a roadmap for doing this in Nigeria before you guys. So you guys, crawled for us to be able to walk. But like in insights now, do you love the experience you had back then, or you are like, there are some that we should not have gone through?
Honestly, I think this is just personal to me. I don't think about too much, or I try to not dwell on the things that maybe we shouldn't have gotten gone through, because what I've discovered is that uh, part of how you know what not to do is by actually doing them,
Right.
failing, and then picking up yourself after that. So I think that everything that we went through was necessary to have gotten us here. Well, that is me being very merry at this point, but like yeah, that's how I think about things generally. But then I imagine that every other director would or might be like, not really. Maybe there was one thing or another that we didn't have to go through. Maybe, for instance, maybe if either of us had worked more seriously or worked a lot in a proper agency, because I promise you, Fort Canvas is not like the typical agency. And we've
Yeah.
had a lot of people that have worked with us say the same, right? So maybe we would have learned some lessons from there. But then again, the lessons that we learned on our path to where we are now, I think they were so important for us to be building what we have now. So yeah, I think it's cool. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, if anyone listening is looking to make the leap from freelance to studio or to an agency, don't be scared of making mistakes. You will learn a lot from those mistakes. They may be costly, but I mean the price we will pay at that point is probably going to be cheaper than the price we will pay later on. So over to you, Nee. um you've had over a decade of design experience before starting studio unruly, before co-founding studio unruly. Your
Mm.
experience before starting it, how did it translate to the studio?
Like, what skills did I transfer to the studio, or just my
Yeah,
experience?
yeah, what experience did you transfer, what skills, and what
Oh,
were the
okay.
things you had to learn that your experience did not prepare you for?
I think the irony is that I was prepared for everything because I was in a structure that was a mix of an agency and a structured company. The structured company being GT Bank. You can't get
Okay.
more structured than a bank. And the pseudo agency was in Dani. But what was interesting is that because Indani was being funded by GT Bank, we never had to deal with financial constraints. So imagine an agency that was servicing just GT Bank. So we're kind of
Yeah.
GT Bank's creative agency outside of their design team. So I got to experience collaborating with some of the highest creative people while working with some of the most like strict people in terms of like structure because you're working with the bank. If they are doing their end of the year party, Indani would, the company is Indani by the way. Indani will handle the video production and some parts. If there's anything branding like Fashion Week, GT Food Co, Indani will be involved. So I got that structure of bank. So I already know how to like work within a structural system. I know how to like be corporate and communicate without being emotional because when you're in a structure like that, it's more of what the company's goal is than your own creative expression. But I was now also in a department where we had like autonomy. It's like we were the undercover agents of the bank. You get like we could do anything. We didn't have to work within the confines of what was going on in the bank. We were just expected to show up with that extra creativity. So I would say I got all that those processes from working with structure, timeline, working with budgets, trying to allocate, trying to get equipment, trying to sign off things. I've experienced them 360 plus also working with like external vendors, working with celebrities because you're dealing with a lot of egos. I was able to learn a lot of stuff. Yeah, no, you're definitely doing a lot of it. Not in a bad way, just you're dealing with a lot of people who know themselves and they're sure of themselves. So you need to accommodate all those egos in a way that it doesn't explode in your face. Quote unquote. But yeah, I had all that structure. So I wasn't really surprised coming into the studio really. I think I was very well prepared. But I think all those things just helped us decide the kind of clients we wanted to work with, the kind of work we wanted to engage in, the kind of activities outside of work. If we're collaborating on maybe merchandise, who are the brands we're collaborating with? If we're writing articles on certain topics in design, what articles are we? How are we showing up? So all these things, I got early experience from those two main companies, and also working with like people who had multiple skill sets. It helped me learn how to be multidisciplinary while also knowing how to collaborate with people from different industries because you had like filmmakers, you had artists, you had photographers, you had writers, you had stylists. So I sort of got that 360 experience from working at GT Bank and then.
Okay, great. Yeah, thank you very much for that.
You're welcome.
Again, if anyone is watching, gather all your strengths, all the experiences you've had before going into this journey. It's going to be very valuable. Don't think this is too much or this is too little or this is not good enough. Everything is going to count for you, because when you are interfacing with people a lot, you are going to see things, and these things are, and the structures, the experience are needed to help you navigate that journey. So that takes us to the end of round one. So for round two, we are going to start with Mary, and we are talking about the pitfalls now. So over the years, Mary, was there any point Fort Canvas ever thought, nah, we need to shut down, or that never happened? And if it did happen, what led to that and what saved it?
So this is a crazy question. So first, the answer is that it did happen. That we almost shut down, and the year was 2019. So interestingly, that was the year that was close to the time that I was going to be getting married. So uh, I I think even more interestingly, we were closing some really cool projects. So as at then, for an agency that just moved to from Akure to Ibadan, so we were residents in Ibadan. We had moved all in one day to Ibadan to at some point stay together. We had a whole building to ourselves, working our hearts out and everything. And then suddenly, I mean, I remember closing my first 6K project. That was 2019. And it was huge then, right?
Yeah.
Right now, maybe not so much, but like it was huge then. And then unfortunately, we suddenly found ourselves to be, I think I would say, overstaffed, one. And then two, we didn't have uh, projects that were bringing recurring income and revenue and all of that. So imagine having great big projects, but like maybe once in a quarter, or like it was just really spaced out. And we had a huge number of people, in quotes, humans to be fed, to be paid. And so part of this story is not mine to tell, part of it is Victor's to tell.
Yeah.
But I did hear him tell us that there was a period where he just sat back and just looked at everything, and he was like, I don't even know where the next salary is going to come from. I think we should just close this thing down or something. But no, that didn't really happen. What happened was that we tried to, or the leadership looked at every other thing. So, how were we doing financially? What did that look like? And then we cut down on a lot of overhead costs, laid off some people. That was so painful, but it had to happen because we couldn't sustain people. Then I remember that a lot of people took pay cuts and were happy to, interestingly,
Oh,
right?
wow.
So it was, I remember that especially the leadership suffered the most, and everybody was just happy to be there, right? So how did we get out of it? Honestly, it was that we had to rethink the things that worked for us. We had to rethink a whole lot. And I think during that period was when we even moved to Lagos. It was a lot of huge changes that we had to get into, even change our model, our compensation or reward models and all of that. It was wild. It was wild. I promise you, but somehow we survived. And that has evolved over the years to even get better, more clearer, and all of that. But yeah, we almost did close down at some point, really, but we didn't. So yeah.
But thank God you guys didn't close down, because I know firsthand the number of creatives that have passed through Fort Canvas and are making, amazing
Mm,
things. The team that I work with, is a Fort Canvas alumni, and you guys do great work together. So we are grateful for you guys still existing. Um, so Nee,
thank you.
a question to you. I know you had the structure and you had the experience, But was there a mistake you made starting out that you see people that looking to start their studios today making that you could tell them about?
100%. I think one of the my biggest issues, me and some of it that we suffered early on, is savior complex. Just trying to be the agency or person that fixes design in Nigeria. So you're now taking on projects that typically you should not even be touching, but because you want to prove a point that, oh, maybe you can fix the Jumias of Nigeria. So you're not taking on a project where is, I don't want to describe it, but it's just something you should not take on. And halfway into it, you're now resenting the project because you realize it's not to the standard of what you should be working on. And obviously that comes with the people behind said project and how like the communication is, and you just realize, should you just abandon this project and like forget the money, all those types of. So I'll say that was one thing that in my own career, and I think early on, we wanted to do great work and innovative work, but somewhere along the line, I think we lost sight and took on work that we should not have taken on. It's not even like the work wasn't financially rewarding, but it's one of those ones where you can already tell that it's not going to work out the way things should work out. So yeah, I would say that's the one thing I would tell like first time founders and creatives. Like you can't save the industry. You can't like don't think you're the one that's going to fix design in Nigeria. Just take the projects that align with your mission and most likely the accounts, like the finances. But if you're taking on the project just to like prove a point that maybe let's say for instance now we've never really seen like a good Nigerian car branding, and you think that okay, we want to be the ones that would create, and you're just you and the clients just do online, but somehow you don't prove a point and you end up um taking a loss for it. So I think that's the one I would put out there. If I can beg anybody, please, you're not designing Jesus in Nigeria. It's okay. Like in every country, every region, there's going to be what we term as good design, and there's going to be like some that don't have, and that's fine. I think there's a balance because design is practiced at every level. So what you might even call bad design is just maybe design in a certain area that people don't regard. But don't take on a project just because you want to save like some fictional industry that doesn't need saving. You won't enjoy it. I'm telling you from experience. So please, yeah.
Thank you for that. And if you guys are listening, please, hey, if someone like me is begging you to not make certain decisions, don't say I have strong head and I'm going to do better. Take that advice fully on. Ameji,
Yeah.
over to you. So
Right.
since you started your journey, was there something you thought was going to be easy, right? In starting an agency, in running things that when you got into it, you were like, this one passed my power.
Yeah. I think for me, it was getting my first client. That was the
Okay.
most difficult shit ever. Sorry, I use a lot of swear words, so like in case it jumps out from time to time, I'm trying to be cordial. But I think for me, like I before I got into this whole agency thing, I had spoken with like some people that had tried to start agencies in Nigeria, some that had built some successful agencies in Nigeria, and there was a reoccurring theme of Nigerian companies not ever being able to afford good design, not because they don't want to, but because of like the finances is not just there. And I've talked with some that they are now at like the very peak of like the startup ecosystem when it comes to Nigeria, and they have worked with like the Paystacks, with like the Flutter Waves, and then it seems like, okay, what's next? So for me, what I wanted was to build an agency that from day one was founded on the mission of competing on the global scale. And I kind of thought it was going to be easy because I had my portfolio. I'd been doing brand design for like 5 years before then. I'd worked with Johnson and Johnson, like this sort of the whole steez and this thing was as in there. But then I then realized that when you're competing on the global scale, it's not a problem of talent or skill, it's a problem of access. And if that becomes the case, then you have to do everything that you can to gain access. And in my own case, it resulted to working for free. So to give you guys context, in 2024, when I was first trying to break into the real estate market in like the US, I did about 3 websites for free, right? And I got no shishi out of all of those 3. Oh yeah, nice work, bro. And then there's a moved off, right? I tried in the auto repair space, and then I then realized that I was bringing so like a very very good work. There was a YouTube channel then that I cold emailed them. I then basically started to work for them as like their in-house creative for free. And when I joined them, their videos were getting about 1K, 900 views. I changed their thumbnail system, and instantly they got like their first 10K, they got their first 15K. And after about 4 months of work, like I then realized that these guys could not pay me, not because of like the fact that they didn't want to, but like the market that I was in. It was a very huge market, but it is a market where like the average ticket size is very, very low, right? And so it was now until 2025 that I got into the venture capital space just by chance. And in the venture capital space, um, it is even much more difficult because there's a lot of cash. It's a very close-knit space, and you really have to prove yourself before they can let you in, right? So I basically was reaching out to every single VC that I could. I was asking questions, and then I got a chance to work in like a VC firm, and I worked as like an in-house creative guy for 5 months, and they were trying to raise like their fund one then, and unfortunately they were not able to. And it was until like the 4th month that I then started to like cold email all other VCs that, hey, I am working within this VC firm. I am doing this. Here's like the work that I've done. Would you want me to do this? And then 3 of them, based on the fact that, okay, they see that I'm working with one VC firm, like, okay, you can come and work for me. If you're like working with one, then that means that you can also work for me. And then out of those 3, one then transitioned into being like a paying client. And then that paying client now brought in like all the clients. But like getting that first client for my agency was the most difficult. It was a 2-year journey to get that first client, right? And then like if like let's say I wanted to focus on like the Nigerian or African space, it would have been a lot easier for me, especially because of like I've done so many good work. I've like worked with SARS, I worked with like some of the large record labels also. But the thing was just once you want to go on that global scale, like the game is totally different. Like here you can post things, people will like hype you up, and then a founder that knows a founder will then reach out. But then when you're trying to go to where millions of dollars are like on the table, it's now a different ball game. It's not about how good your portfolio is. Like it's not about okay, who do you know? Like who can recommend you? And for me, getting that recommendation took 2 years.
Great. So in your experience, would you advise anybody trying to make this transition to work for free or not?
I would always say you should work for free because the thing is, you know, you always have to put yourself in the position of like the business owner, right? If let's say, for example, right, if I should come and meet you, I don't know the car that you drive, and I'm like, let me drive you. Let's say you bought your car for like 50, like as in 50M, right? I'm just like, okay, just give me your car keys. I sabi drive, bro. You're like, you understand? Like I as I drive you, and then you are like, no, dude, I can't really trust you with my car. Like, what the fuck are you thinking? Like, of course not.
I just met you.
Understand, right? So like it's like the same way. Like if you should approach like a multi-million-dollar startup, why should they trust you with like their brand? Like that is like the
Yes.
most like that is like the most powerful asset like as in they have. And especially for me, after understanding why branding is um, important for businesses, where it is all about giving them the ability to be able to charge higher than the rest. Because once you have a brand, you don't compete based off price anymore. You compete based off like perception, right?
True.
And if that is the case, why should I trust you with my most prized assets as a company, right? When you have not proven yourself to me at all. So if like someone is like if I want to drive a G-Wagon, I have to prove that I know how to drive a G-Wagon, right? But if let's say for example, someone now comes to meet me and then they are like, "Oh, I want you to drive me," and you are bringing a Toyota. Oh, bro, no offense to you, but like it's not a Toyota that I want to drive, right? And so like if someone is coming to meet me that come and work for me for free, I'll give you exposure. I don't do that. My own case is I find the companies that I want to work for free. I reach out to them, I disturb them until when they say yes, and then I prove myself, and then they now eventually start paying me or start giving me the chance to basically like be the person that is going to handle their creative and brand decisions.
Okay, great, great. Thank you very much for that. So again, to the audience, if you are going to work for free, have a goal in mind, have a target you are trying to reach, have what you want to get out of it. That will be your payment, not exposure, but like in Ameji's case, the recommendations, the vouching that the people you worked for could give other people you wanted to work with. So don't just work for free and miss, be strategic about it. Okay, thank you very much, guys. So we will go to the third round. And and we'll be talking about the pivot. So Nii, I'm going to start with you.
Okay.
So since you started Studio Unruly, have you made any pivots from where you started? Maybe like the kind of projects you wanted to be working on initially. Have you made a pivot from then to now, or you're still working on the things you set out to do?
Oh, the things you set out to do, but also the things you set out to do are not they're not exactly unique. So it's not like we have a very strict. Where the strictness comes in is the level of understanding of design. We tend to not work with certain clients that don't have a base, and an indicator for that is, do they have a creative person on the team? Because if they don't, then you're just going to be having conversations where 90% of the time you're educating than designing, and that can be very tedious. So we like to select projects that fall within those categories. That's why you see we did My Father's Shadow last year. We did Budgie's album. We did Palm Wine Festival. That's Palm Wine Music Festival. We did Miss Coin, the movie. So a lot of our work sits within that space where it's already people that interface with design on a normal day. The music industry interfaces there, so it's never really hard to. Yeah, so there's not really any need for any pivot. It's just what we've been doing. I think it's more of now like the quality of clients that we're dealing with that we used to determine who we work with. Certain jobs we just feel like would go better for like maybe an individual, and we just recommend a designer. It's not because each of us also have like other things that we're doing on our own side, like me and my co-founder. So we're not too like overtly pressed to bring business. It has to be worth it. It has to be worth it for us at this stage, anyways. When we start to scale and get bigger, then we can now start saying. But right now, we're trying to build a very world-class portfolio that when we present it anywhere, it shows the quality. And not world-class in the sense that we want it to look like an American portfolio. I'm just saying like that meets industry standard globally.
Definitely.
So all those design principles and all that. But yeah, we've not really had any need for a pivot.
Okay.
I think
great.
if there was going to be any pivot, is this year we're doing more fintech. So we have a couple that are working on. But again, it's not out of the ordinary for what we do. Yeah.
All right, great, great. I mean, you and Tifa are kind of like the tech and ghost of the the design in the first place. You guys are always dropping bangers for us, and we are always there to.
I'm glad I found him at a very at a very young age.
Yeah,
Not to sound weird, but yeah.
Yeah, I think everybody needs, that creative partner where you are sort of creative team where you are sort of on the wavelength, the same wavelength with, where you just know that even if we
The
do
first
rubbish,
day we worked, I just knew that the first, because we worked on YKB's cover, and I was like, I remember telling her, I said, don't worry, I was going to make a lot of money together. That on your own, just keep getting better. Because what I seen today, it was raw, but I could tell that you understood process. And for
Yeah.
me, that's the sweetest. Once you understand process, we can it now goes from just illustration to there's design elements to it. So already he's speaking my language where I don't have to over explain certain things. We understand each other like very, and also because he does what I can't do and I do what he can't do. Like we're both the things we lack are in each other. So we complement easily. Yeah, you get like he doesn't need to try and do what I do. And I know I don't want to pretend like I'm an illustrator. I'm not interested. I don't know. Ironically, he's more likely to cross over to my side because there's projects now. He worked on Show Them Camp's last album, and that
Right.
was a design process, and I wasn't involved. And he
Oh,
handled it from top to bottom. So already he's already like he's giving me a run for my money, but I'm just glad. Yeah.
yeah,
So
I mean
yeah.
that's a sweet creative marriage.
Yeah.
And for everyone, find people on this journey. You can't do it alone, to be honest. And even if you are not ready to build a world class team, just find people who you can trust. I've been lucky to also find people like that, like Collins Odo, like Teslim Abu, and there are people that you can trust their work. You can trust that even if a client approaches you and say, "Let's do this," and you're like, "I can't do that. I know I have guys I can run through that. It's not going to be so much crazy work to get it done." Thank you, Nii. So Ameji, what assumption did you have before running a studio that now you've had to let go? Because when you tried that, you assume this is how it's going to pan out, but when you tried that, it didn't work for you.
I think for me, it was like my understanding of an agency then was you work on, and forgive me, on this call, I will most likely be less of a designer or more like a business person because that's basically
Gotcha.
what that's basically what most of my job is these days. But basically, I've sort of realized that sustaining an agency, it sort of requires you solving, like in my own space, it sort of requires you being able to solve a problem over an elongated period of time. And then that also means that um, while you can be able to do one-off projects like websites, brand identity, and all of those things, you have to figure out the way that your agency will be able to maintain a monthly recurring income through like a retainer.
Yeah.
And for me, I sort of saw that like this was like about 2 months after when Tony and Cole became live. We are still not live. We're still like in like the stealth, basically building our stuff. But basically, it was this thing where I sort of realized that. Sorry, please give me a moment. So it was like this thing where the one-off gigs that we were having, brand identity, websites, they were good, but it was this constant fluctuating income. Right? And so what I had to then basically start to learn was how do I reposition the company and try to not just focus on what I can offer, but also focus on what the client truly needs. So people come to, so like, especially like as a designer, there are things that you can do, right? That are like, they are like the things that are within your field of specialty itself that people will come to you for. Okay, you are very good with website design. You are like the website guy. People will come to you to have their website done. But then there might be an underlying business problem why they are trying to get that website done, right? And so I decided to focus more on the underlying business problem itself. And then when I found out that, I decided to offer more of that. And then the website, the branding, the designs, and all of those things were now basically tools that were basically used for that particular purpose. And what that helped us to now basically do was to achieve a level of sustainability that we would ideally not have been able to achieve if like we were focused on just like one-off gigs. So that sort of like and this took a lot of sacrifice because we had a lot of clients then. We had like 4 clients that were paying us like for like as in this website, this brand, and we had to just basically be like, okay, this is our new model now. We are exclusively working for these people, and these people are like the kind of people that we want to work with going forward. And the clients that did not fit into that particular bill, we had to let go of them. This basically took away all of the income that we had. But then what that also did was to now basically like unlock a new pathway for us where like we could basically have that sustainability month on month. And the other thing also was like most of my thinking as a designer, especially before I started my agency, like the first 2 times that I tried, I focused a whole lot on like, oh, I have to get my website first, I have to get my branding first, I have to do this, I have to do that. Uh, it was so funny because I spent so much time doing those things that I did not have a client, right? So like I had a perfect website, I had a perfect brand identity for an agency that had no client. What I did differently this time around with Tony and Co that worked was I was like, okay, I'm not going to focus on like having any brand. If I said, oh, like we are going to launch our website probably by the end of this month, and we've been operational for about 5 months now. That sort of gives you like the idea of like the whole thing. So we focus more this time around on like let us get the client first. Let us know that okay, what we are doing on the global scale, we can actually be able to like secure people that will trust us to do it. And then once that has now been done, then we can now focus on things. So if you see the name Tony and Co, it's basically my name. I just basically put and Co there. I was like, okay, let us go and register this thing sharp, sharp. You know, we want to get an LLC. Let us have it and let us be able to like open Stripe and get our payment stuff like set up. So I think that's sort of like value first approach changed everything for me in such a way where like when I'm even interacting with new clients now, they might come to me for one thing, right? And I basically tell them that like you don't really need this thing that you're coming to me for. Like you will probably waste your cash on top of it, and then at the end of the day, you'll not see any result. This is just like a fancy paint. What I think you should do is to go and speak to this person, go and speak to this person, go and speak to this person, and they can help you fix this particular problem that you have. That has sort of helped in such a way that once they have spoken to those people and they have those problems solved, they now come to me for like the creative and distribution side. And yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. Let's quickly move to Mary. Over the years since Ford Canvas has been existing, has there been a time Ford Canvas pivoted that the team resisted that pivot at first, but now you can't imagine the agency without it?
So first, at the beginning, at least when I joined, uh, I remember that we had a lot of focus on getting great logos done. I remember that those years we had this thing called logo every day. If you if you used to follow us then, we used to have that. We just pop in one idea about something that's happening within a season, and then we pop in logos and all of that. We really, really loved the ideas of the idea of crafting solid logos and putting it out there. So we had lots of projects like that, brand identity projects, logo projects that didn't go too far. But after a while, we saw that it felt like the work, the impact of the work was not as great as we knew it could be.
Yeah.
So we had to have conversations around how much more can we be giving to these guys, right? To this business to make the work much better. I remember that at some point we took on being adding strategy. I remember that we had sessions where we're trying to figure out what strategy meant in the first place. I also remember us reading Alina Wheeler across the team. I think it was
I remember that time.
2018 or something like that. And we
Yeah.
were just so excited about it. And we felt like, okay, we shouldn't be doing just nice logos. We should be thinking about how would this logo work in the real world? And then what more can design do for a business? So the more we thought about it, the more we saw that we needed to have extended impact across several things. So I remember that after we took on strategy, that started to affect how we were thinking about our work, how we were presenting the work, how we were involving the clients too. Because at some point we had we were fine with a client putting in a call to us or sending in an email, and we had a couple of questions, and we just shoot it at them, they shoot them back. And I promise you, we had the most problematic projects during that period. I cannot forget a particular project where we just kept sketching and sketching and sketching and sketching. Nothing made sense to the client. Actually, what had happened was that we had an in-between guy. The in-between guy, we had done a project, a logo project for the guy that ended in one guideline. I think the guideline was probably like 20 pages or something. But it
Yeah.
was just how to use the logo, color, and yada yada yada. So he loved how clean the work was. And then he recommended us to another of his friends that had access to, of course, more money in quotes. So it was that kind of person that, oh, you can't get on a call with this person. The person tells me what the brand is about, gives us the name, da 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 da, and then that was all. So imagine, just imagine this picture where your client is giving you feedback, but it's the go between guy. So he probably has mixed what he means or what the client himself means
Yeah.
based on his own understanding for whatever reason. I mean, it might be a honest addition and all of that. And then we just kept going. I remember we pulled in so many collaborations to make sense of this. We kept doing great logos, but it didn't make sense. Anyhow, what we learned out of that period, I mean, we've had several tiny pivots here and there, but like what we learned out of this particular period I'm talking about was that we learned that we needed to bring our clients more into projects. So, and
Yeah.
thankfully, by the time we moved into Ibadan, we had conversations more with our clients. We were able to interact with them to understand what problem they were really trying to solve. Because one of the things that we found out was that sometimes the client sees something nice on your website and they're like, oh, we want something like this. And then you start to talk to them, you see that the problem is bigger than that. And I love what Amiji was also talking about, that, or was it, no, it was Nii that was talking about having a design person internally. There is how when some things are not clearly stated internally, or there is nobody to carry on the great work that you guys are doing, I mean, it's just going to feel like decoration in the end, right? So we learned all of these things to include clients into the process more. That's one. We learned to do more beyond just designing great logos in that sense, to how can the work that we're doing, how can it affect every other thing that they're doing. So of course that's where strategy came in. Yeah, maybe like 2.5. So more impact for the work, more
Yeah.
meaning for the work as well. And then for the first time, we started having more like our clients got to understand the reasons behind some of the decisions that we're making. So picture this: your client gives you all of the brief and all of that, or like you send in questions, they respond to it, and then for 3 weeks you just go off, and then you come back with a presentation.
Yeah.
How do you want them to understand? I mean, great, you can have a great session where you're presenting and all of that, and then suddenly you might find out that they are not in alignment. But imagine that within the 3 week space, you had a point where you explained what you were going to be doing with the brand. Of course, like you're crafting the strategic direction.
Yeah.
So, of course, I'm leaving out all of the other details of sales and all of that, right? But like the more we looked at the process, the more we saw that when we brought these guys in, one, they made sense of the work that we were doing. Um, we also got to listen more to them, because sometimes we can get very excited about the ideas, the solid ideas, brilliant ideas that we want to put out there. But like listening to your clients sometimes helps you solve the problems better, right? So these were things that we learned in the space of, I don't know, 10 years. And then we started to see how our work could not only influence looking good, it could influence their internal culture. They could start to talk differently, process things differently. They could start to imagine how they were affecting or bringing impact to the world. So it was a whole lot that we could do. We could of course now do from strategy to design to the website, sometimes to go to market strategy to, I mean, depending on the width. But we saw that um, the more we interacted with our clients, the more we could do for them. And I think one thing that was also striking was that it helped us solve this problem that we had in 2019, where we were literally broke. It was that we then saw that we needed to constantly be able to give value to these clients and be able to consistently make money. So of course that was when we started doing lots of retainers, made sense of it, and then figured out whether or not we were going to be doing it for too long. We did so many pivots, or we had so many pivotal moments, but like a lot of them came from failing, actually came from, okay, imagine the one that I talked about. You're sending your logo to your client, or the logo to your client, and they're just like, yeah, so we like this, but, and you're like, okay, so what exactly are you saying? It was so crazy that we could see the good work that we were doing, but it didn't translate. Like I promise you, it didn't make sense. Imagine that we had a board, and we will all sit there and be sketching, and and then the client sees the presentation. We're like, okay, now this will convert, and then the client says no. Of course, we learned that we needed to do more. We needed to not just um, take briefs or just send questions, dead questions. Sometimes, we started stopping to take actual, like, drop templated questions. We wanted to, indeed, we got more curious, like, what exactly really is the problem? Of course, not exactly asking those questions, because if you do, they will give you the surface level questions, but like things that help them think to where they started from, why they were existing, what change they wanted to bring into the world, how were they doing currently around all the things that they were doing. I mean, so many other questions, but like, yeah, I
Yeah.
can't point, but I can say that we've had several of them over the years.
Thank you very much. So yeah, guys, the journey is iterative. You don't have to have everything figured out starting out. You're going to make mistakes no matter I think I over prepared for mine, and I'm pretty much sure I still made mistakes. You are going to make mistakes, you are going to learn along the way, you are going to iterate along the way. So don't be stuck in, oh, this is the way I want to do this thing. Allow yourself to evolve, allow your plan, your vision to evolve to get to where you want to be. So I'm throwing this out to all of you. So if anyone is looking to start their studio today, what do you think is the first thing they need to do? Is it registering the business? Is it getting a client? Is it designing a website? What would you say, in your own view,
Get
is
your first
what they
clients.
need to do?
Get your
Huh?
first clients. Get your first clients.
How about you,
Get-
Need?
I promise, I promise you, I don't think I even have a better answer.
Yeah, definitely get a gig. It doesn't. Me, I'm more of the opinion of work with like do free work, because I like what you said about the free work thing. It's just do a project for maybe a friend's brand, something that you can use to quote unquote launch your first project and get a client, because the client validates everything you're trying to. Because now you have to prepare invoice, you have to have a bank account. It just starts the process for a lot of things that. Because if you just go and start doing all these things without any clients, can just be looking like, why did we even? But a client validates that, okay, we need to get a lawyer, we need to get accounts, we need to get all these things in check. So definitely get a client. It's easy to do websites and all these things, but if nobody's coming to the websites, then
So guys,
So
to
I
start
want to,
this,
I want to add something. I want to add
okay,
something. So when you if you get your first client, one of the things that it helps you do is, like Kinikni said, validate stuff. One of the things that helps you validate also is that you get to find out what kind of clients do I really want to be working with,
Yep.
right?
Exactly.
What are going to be the clients that we will never touch, right? But if you don't start with the work, like the work is so important. Without the work, you don't even know I mean, you might say that you want to
Recording in
have a
progress.
brand design agency and then get into it and say that, oh, more branding is not for me. Oh, I just want to do this thing or
Right.
another thing. I mean, in one of the books that I read last year, I read about someone that was focused on just creating presentation design. That's what the business does. Of course, that would be harder to do in Africa, but like you can jump into the work and then find out this is what we want to eventually be doing
Yeah.
for this reason. But you never find out if what you start with is, like you said, over preparing. I mean, the preparation is good because to some extent it helps you. At least you can start with a couple of things, but like the most important thing that you have to do is to test everything that you are developing on clients
Yeah.
and then find
So
your feet from
guys,
there.
yeah, guys, you've added the single most important thing you need starting this journey is to get a client, either free or paid, but you need to get a client. Don't focus on designing your identity or your website or trying to design 300 slides of your positioning. Just get a client. So we move on to collaboration and talent. Ameji, quick one for you. So as a first year founder, and you are trying to figure this thing as you're going on the way, and I have experience into how you're building your team. How have you been able to convince people to join you on this journey?
I think for me, it's been kind of easier because I find people that are more like me, right? And those people that are like me, there's a consistent pattern. They are always so good at like their job, but they always want more, and so they easily quit jobs, right? And because they easily quit jobs, it makes it very hard for them to join like the conventional companies around them. So you will see someone that is in school that has like that raw talent in them, but they can't basically keep a job because of like, okay, you are in 400 level, but you want to be paid 1 million, right? And because of the fact that you want to be paid 1M, you are working so hard to like end that 1M, you are working so hard on your portfolio. You see some of these guys and some of these girls also, they have that
Hey
fire in
everybody,
them. They want that zeal, right? And so like you see my own
can you
pitch
hear
to
me?
them most times is like, just come and work with me. I will make sure that you earn the most money possible and do the best work that is possible. You understand? That's what we're going to do through Tony and Co.
Oh, great, great. By the way, Ameji tried to poach me too, but I was already starting my own journey by that time. So unfortunately, we couldn't work together. Ameji had to drop off just now because he had the clashing call, but we are still good to go with Mary and Nee. So Mary,
Yes.
Fort Canvas collaborates a lot with talent. What's the biggest mistake agencies or studio make when trying to bring in talent?
Sorry, can you go again?
Yeah, I
The
said,
last part.
we know Fort Canvas collaborates with a lot of people. What is the
Yeah.
biggest mistake studios or agencies make when trying to bring in external talent?
So first, uh, I would say that finding a talent that would be able to work within their process
Yeah,
without crunching the person forcefully into like out of their own authentic voice or authentic creative voice. So one of the mistakes that I would imagine, I mean, I don't know, I don't speak enough with other agencies and all of that, but like I imagine that from some of the things that I've experienced, if you don't find someone that is on, I'm trying to remember who said something about being on the same wavelength, right?
yeah,
If you don't find people that are like you, the more, or more like the more you find people that like you, the more you can do great work. The more you find, or the more you define who are your type of people. So
Yeah.
you define it, and then you find those people. Then not only that, you have the structure that helps them do their best work. So I remember one of the projects that I led some probably 3 4 years ago now. It was, we had a situation where we wanted someone because of the talents that they had. Typically, we make some decisions to collaborate with a couple of people because there is a certain skill that the person brings to a particular project that we need for that project to be successful. So
Yeah.
from the beginning, from the sales call, we already are looking at the best people to put together on a project that would contribute to the success of that project. And then for this particular project, we had someone, we had our eyes on someone. We thought this was a good fit. Arranged every other person, literally assembled the Avengers team, and then by the time we got in, there was an issue with our process and the person, and then the person being able to work with the other people on the project. It was a whole lot that we had to figure out, and then eventually, one of the things that we had to do was that after a while, it wasn't really that we had to do it. It was that the person could not cope, the person had to leave, and then we had to find someone else to fill in that gap. So
Yeah.
I think that because we're talking about people, it's that you have to be working with people. And I loved what Nii said about Ife, right? How that the first time you work with that person, most likely you know, the first time you see someone's work or you work around the person, you have an idea that this person is fussy material in some sense. And then of course you have a couple of people internally that have people that are close to fussy material, and then they just recommend folks. We look through, have conversations with them outside of just the work that they will be doing,
Yeah.
and see if we are going to fit. So I would say that one of the biggest mistakes that you can make would be to get people on board just because they are awesome in terms of like their talents or their skills and what they bring to the table. I mean, I've heard of several people who would say, see, I don't care what kind of person you are. um, I just want your skill. You can be a very terrible person. If your skill saves me, gives me the money that I'm looking for, I don't really care about your personal life, man. But at Fort Canvas, we don't do that. We've learned that that doesn't help us do our best work. We found that we want to work with good people, great people, so that we can do great work.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, these are mistakes that I imagine that people make. That yeah, you're not finding the best fit. You're also not defining the way that you would do your work. I
Yeah.
think that's another thing. So it's not just finding people that align with your values, whatever your values may be. It's also that, is there a way that you do work that you guys agree on? They may not be 100% on it, but like they can make sense of why we are doing this. Probably even bring a different angle to make it better,
Yeah.
right? But like there is a way that work gets done. So for instance, when we're when we're onboarding, how does that feel like? When we're done with that, how do we process the stage where we want to understand the client, for instance, where we're having several calls, just asking questions, just hours sometimes asking questions. If you think that as a strategist, for instance, I don't really care about questions. I just want to I just send me your documents and all of that, then you definitely can work at for Canvas. Again, these are things about structure and how you get work done, right?
Yeah.
Then how you judge great work too. You have to align on that too. But
Yeah.
again, these are a few things that I can think of we talking
Thank you for
about.
that. So if anyone has been dreaming of working with 4C, you should have an idea into how the team in 4C are vetting their talent. So you should ask yourself, if you fit that category. Nii, what is one thing you would look for in somebody that you want to collaborate with?
Um, I like to believe is the philosophy around their work. I tend to categorize designers based on like their philosophy because it guides how all of us work. An example would be, is this a creative that knows how to like do very good fintech work, or they know how to use colors, or is this a maximalist, or is this a minimalist type of creative? Knowing like their core strengths and how they fit into the idea of the work you're engaging them for is how me personally I like to pick creatives. Like with Tife now, I already know Tife's strengths. People might not know, but like I don't work on all my projects with Tife because I usually have to gauge what kind of illustrator are they looking for. If it's a certain type of illustration, and I know it's Tife, if it's like some rough style illustration, it's this type of person. I might do it somebody that does very well with 3D and colors. So knowing that is how I collaborate for client related work anyways. Also to add to what May said, um personality. I personally don't believe in the idea of a creative who is a demon, but they are very good at what they do, and I'm engaging them on work. I don't think I'm interested because you're going to be dealing with like multiple again, dealing with multiple egos, multiple personalities. You can't have a chaos agent in your group because they're
Yeah.
going to just keep causing chaos at the most simplest things. Especially when I have a set and someone, once I can detect that you are the type that grumbles at everything, I'm going to make sure you're far away from either the talent or the photographer because you're going to bring that energy and it's just going to drain the whole set. And ironically, it could be something that's just happening you doing your own day. Maybe you forgot to eat or something happened to you. It's not even maybe you're upset at the set you get. It's your own presence, but because you have that energy, you're like, no, we're not going to allow all of that. Like, so that's again like I pick based on like the personality, how can they contribute to the project, where do they fit in. I'm not a believer of beauty hires. I don't believe in like, oh, just because somebody is like some top designer at this fintech brand, let's get him. Let's get him. It's going to be a good addition to our team. But you don't even know where he fits in. You just know, okay, having this guy would improve aura point. Well, that romance phase will settle down in like 2 months, and you now realize that okay, you've brought a problem on board that you don't know how to, where can I fit. So I'm more, we have to be strategic because time is money, and the more we're engaging this person, we're paying this person. So we
Yeah.
need to be strategic. If we're bringing this person, in fact, for us as a really, if we're bringing somebody on board, we've already concluded why we're bringing them. They don't need to prove anything to us, unless it's not a creative that you've just heard good things about, and for some reason you can't find their body of work. Like there's some
Yeah.
people that you just be like, you give them a second chance. Okay, let's actually seek them out because if everybody's saying good things about this person, then there's something that we need to also tap into. Then we now still have to find out, oh, do they fit into the scope of work? Like for us now, there was a time we needed to do for after 30, we needed to retouch some of the pictures for the posters. And you would assume that I would go and get a retoucher from like maybe some photography, but no. The first thing my mind went to is I need a football retoucher because those guys that retouch those football posters,
Crazy.
they're like I know how to do a lot of things in design, but that one thing is I just end up leaving my screen and being like, huh, like how did they do this? And it's simple photo manipulation, but there's a specific way that I don't know how to explain, but I just don't know how to do that. And I'm just like, this is a very niche skill in its own niche industry. But that's who we got to end up doing the poster. And it worked very well. Because we needed contrast, we needed the setting, lighting. So it's knowing what works for the brief and knowing how to tap into the person that can achieve
Yeah.
this.
Thank you very much.
You're
So for
welcome.
any creative out there looking to collaborate with Fossey or Niyi, your personality matters a lot, as much as your skill. And if you are a studio founder or somebody looking to start the studio and looking to build your team, these are points on how you should look at bringing in talent into your team. It's super important. The energy, the personality, these are things that can make or mar your project, or just everything that goes on the project. We are nearing the end now, and so looking at the long game, statistically, they say most studios don't make it past 3 years. So I'm throwing this out to both Niyi and Mary. What do you think studios and agencies can do to survive the industry for a very long time?
Scale at your own pace. Don't scale at the pace of what you're perceived as. You might have done like 5 world-class projects, like international brands, but doesn't now mean you should now go and get an office because you now want to look serious. You get what I'm saying? Like you should
Yeah.
actually get an office when your team is big enough and okay, guys, we can't keep hanging out at Ni's house or Victor's house. We need a space because Victor has his own family. I'm assuming like everybody has. You can't be entering somebody's house and you're seeing the daughter or the wife doing your office meeting. So okay, now it's time to get a space. You can't now go and get a space in Banana Island too because you've arrived. You want to get a space that okay, can we afford the rent? Can we afford like can people easily commute to this space? Is it close to like what's the sound? Sound is another thing. Are you guys close to construction sites? So you're just hearing every day. Or are you near like a good scenery, Then you now
Yeah.
know what are the things you want to invest. People tend to work late now because invest in like maybe bean bags and things that aid comfort, people can rest. That's how you gradually scale. If you now realize that more it's too much and everywhere is hot, okay, we'll buy AC. But don't just you've gotten money from projects, you now buy the latest marks, get office, your POP is looking like you're in a nightclub. I'm looking at you and Paul. Your POP is looking like you're in a nightclub and you're chilling. Like make sure that there is a need for it because it's very easy to make that mad money and we have to open office. All the CEOs are driving G-Wagon, everybody's chilling them 2 weeks down the line or 2 months down the line. Business has closed shop and we're now wondering what happened. So scale at your own pace. And most things now are remote. So sometimes we never need to have an office until you
Definitely.
really need to, you know when you need to get an office, you know when you need to get a proper accountant, when you need to get a proper lawyer, you know when you need to move from our friend is helping us to the company needs to hire this thing. You know when it's time to let's do healthcare. Like the company is doing very well. But don't just scale at the pace now because you did work on the level of studio quota and you collected a couple $1,000. You now want to just build office in Banana Island. I think you will crash faster. And I
Yeah.
think also collaborating like in the long game, start to build like I don't want to call it grooming, but start to like identify like young creatives that you can also like semi-train so
Yeah.
that by the time they grow into your company, they can take ownership of certain products. Like who better to work on a product about maybe product design is the guy that has been in the product design team since day one. You get like somebody who embodies like the pillars of 4C or really somebody who knows how we work in this space. Then how can they take that and also now influence their colleagues sideways? Because there's always that one person in every team that is a team leader. And usually the person that doesn't want to be a team leader but just goes out of his way to do it because if he
Yeah.
does not do it or she does not do it, things will just be you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So find those kinds of people. You don't have to just hire rock stars. You can hire rock stars, like people that have potential to be rock stars and train them. And if they leave, that's also fine. You know,
Yeah.
you've been about that thing. It's also fine. Like don't hold it. You one thing you always have to realize that you always want your best talents to leave so that you can get new best talents. And hopefully those best talents can go and set up more avenues for other best talents. And before you know it, in an industry where it was just like 5 outstanding talents, you now have like 50. Like you can tell now that from this generation of agencies or companies from the Fourth Canvas to the Unruly to that design, Belon Woods, other agencies that I'm not remembering, Credital from that year, all of them. When you start to trace back, you're going to see that these agencies sort of served as the pathways for newer designers. Sorry, Geniza brands too. There's probably
Yeah.
like I'm not talking of the school. The school alone is its own force. I'm talking of like her
The
company, the brand
agency.
agency. You get and more people and what you realize that these different agencies have their own philosophies. And this is how you start seeing things like School of Plato, School of Socrates. Because fourth canvas has developed a way to solve brand problems that is unique to them. Or
Yeah.
really has also developed their own way of doing things. Belong who's have developed their own way. So this is you're going to find designers that will now embody those things. That's why, and that's where, like May said, it's now easy for us for them to hire people because they can see that this person has elements of what we will consider as good work ethic or good structure, just being a creative that they want to hire. So it's really that's what it's really about. I think it's a good time for the industry. We have more even your agency now is going to come and there's going to be creatives that work on that day that will graduate and more people will come. So that's a good I think we are sorted out in the next 50 years for design. Like this next set, we're going to be very good. The previous set was more like artisans and
Yeah.
crafts people. But I think now Nigeria can actually like boast some of the finest I would say some of the best designers, in my own opinion, they are from Nigeria. Like I
I
can
agree.
argue that anytime. So yeah,
Yeah. Thank you for that. Yeah, Mary, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, definitely. So I feel like the strongest way that I first want to tie together what me shared about is authenticity. I think it's such a powerful thing. I remember the first time I stepped into Fossey and how Victor had a document in front of, like, on his laptop where he was sharing what we were trying to do at Fort Canvas and why it was important. And that sold me, really, right? It's that was unique to what we were building, which has evolved over the years, right? With an authentic, what do you call it now, way of being, of existing, you have authentic pacing, like what he said already. You have authentic processes. You have authentic ways of approaching or solving problems, right? And that was such a powerful point. Thank you, me. To
I know
add
from
to that, I would say that you need to have your operations, what do you call it, engine running. So, what makes a brand design or like an agency or a studio, what makes you run? As we've all come to find out, is not just you being able to churn out work. At some point, I think that when we were way younger, fewer people were looking to get married, fewer problems. You just want to do good work. At some
Yeah.
point, people grow up and then their desires change as they evolve, as they learn. One, as you embody your values more, they also find themselves more, they discover themselves more, and they suddenly find out that, oh, more, it's not about just great work. Oh, there's money that we need to run our lives. I want to have a better life. I don't just want to do work that I'm happy with. I also want my bank to give me joy when I'm looking at my account, right? So,
Important.
but that will not happen. That will not happen if you are also focused on, yeah, let's just keep doing the great work. At some point, that matters, and that's the point where you want to actually embrace free work, taking on some gigs and all of that. But at some point, you are going to have to run this thing so that you can do sustainable work, right? So it's not just, I mean, you want to exist beyond the 5 year mark that people talk about typically, right? You
Yeah.
want to be able to do that. You have to have sustainable system. So, and that's what I meant by saying by having the operations engine running. So I was talking about part of the things that help us make sense of the work that we're doing and keep doing the work, where we found out that we had to create like a flywheel of that encompassed everything that makes us do the work that we want that we are doing, and to be able to improve on it, right? Finding what all of those things, all those components are, is important as you grow. Again, we had talked about your stats. At the start, you are trying to find your client. But as you move up, you see that not every client is good for you. But you won't make sense much of it if you're not documenting. So, how are you? I mean, internally at Fort Canvas, we have sections where we have journaling, have like sections where we are sharing the lessons that we are learning on projects and all of that, and crossing through like our teams to ensure that your lesson is not just staying with you. Maybe someone else can use it in their project and all of that.
Yeah.
Then, one other thing that I will add, which is to some extent still hammering on that operation engine, having it running, is investing in people. So outside of work, right? I mean, that's how we like to look at things, and that's how I also generally look at things. Outside of work, work is not everything that people do, right? People have their journeys, they have their uh, their interests and all of that. So once in a while, not even just once in a while, really, as a way of life, you should have an idea of what makes other people tick within your team, so that you
Yeah.
can contribute to that. And all of that helps you build that bond that you can then turn into how your work experience becomes more solid. So happy people do great work, uh, but like, happy people are actually humans that want
Yeah.
to be seen, that want to be appreciated. I mean, over the years, we also have learned all of these things. It's not that it just jumped on us and we're just like, oh yeah, of course. But it's that you learn more and more. And to be sincere, we've had occasions where, um, I mean, not to brag really, but like, out there is crazy. I loved what Ameji said about the fact that a lot of the people that work with him are people that cannot just sit still in one place, right? So finding your people, but not only finding them, but investing in them. And I love what Niyi also said about the fact that people will leave sometimes, but like, you have to be doing that, because the more people, the more you're invested in people, the more they are most likely going to be investing in you. But it's not really about that. It's that you want to be better people, you want to be growing with people, and all of that. So yeah, operation engine is the major thing that I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for the insights. So, guys, as you are looking to start your studio, also look at the long game. Look at how you are going to evolve. Have a plan for now. Have a plan for 5 years into the journey, 10 years into the journey. You are going to evolve. What will take you from point 0 to 1 is not what will take you from point 1 to 2, and you need to give yourself the freedom to be able to adapt and evolve. And everything me and Mary have been able to say, please hold them to heart. I know I've learned a lot from it. Yeah, so to round off this conversation, um, you know, just one advice on standing out for the audience. What is one thing they need to do to stand out in a sea of other studios, in a sea of other agencies? How can they carve a name for themselves? Um, I'm throwing this to you guys.
Mm. So I was waiting for a few seconds to see if Nini was going to start, but let me see. So the first thing that comes to my mind, I think that the question, or the most important question that you want to ask, is why? Why am I trying to build this? What am I trying to do differently? So the more it's like, I so last week I was thinking about the fact that being a designer is such a powerful tool or skill that either you must eventually have as a human, or you must know someone, be privileged to work with someone,
Yeah.
or be friends with someone, because designers typically find ways around solving problems. I think that if you're a designer, you first see that there is no problem that you can't solve. And I think that that is a way to even approach how to start up anything. It's that you want to do something different. Why do I really want to be different? And very important part that you should underline your answer with has to be that you are pushing ego out of the way, because it's not going to last if ego is part of where the answer is coming from. It has to be something that connects with your journey or your journeys, if you have more than one people already that are trying to build something with. It has to be that why exactly do we think that the world needs another brand design agency, for Christ's sake? Like, why do we want to build something else when Studio Glyn is already launching? Maybe someone is right there thinking, right? I want to do something like or more than this. It's that why exactly. And the more you ask your why questions and sincerely, if you are being very vulnerable and you find what you are really trying to do and you start to do it from day one, there is no, I mean, yes, you have, of course, you should have all these 5 year strategies, all those things. But like, what's the first change that you're trying to bring? And probably don't, you should be as sincere as possible. I really love it when sometimes you're asking someone, what are you really trying to do? And they're like, see, I'm just trying to make money. It makes sense. You don't
Yeah,
have
it's
to
valid reason.
lie and, and be like, oh yeah, I want to touch. Please calm down. I loved listening to me so much where he was saying that you probably won't solve Nigeria's creative design problem. You probably won't
Mhm.
solve everything. But at least maybe there
Yeah.
is one thing that you think you are most suited to solve, or you possibly can just find people like you to solve a particular problem. It doesn't have to be everything, but like you have to be clear on why you are trying to do this, and then think about it. Take yourself seriously. Like, it's not just this is so cool. It's that very soon you are going to need to pay for the power that you are using to work. You are going to need to pay for the internet service. You are going to need to pay for the softwares that you're using. You are going to need to pay money to do stuff. You are going to need to pay money to invest in your own growth, to learn new skills sometimes, to pay for master classes sometimes that probably would not make sense yet. So you need to you need to be clear at the beginning as you are moving, or and as you are moving, why are we trying to do this, and return to these questions over and over again, because you actually, I mean, I can tell you that last year we had 4 flywheels. By the time we're entering this year, we first shrunk it, and then we're expanding it and trying to make sense of things more, because we're not trying to just exist in the sense of, oh yeah, we just want to stay where we were. It's that we know that things can be better, and that's a skill that comes with being a designer. It's like so powerful. So yeah. Welcome back, Ameji.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Thank you.
sorry. I had
Yeah,
to.
maybe we're about rounding off. But
Okay,
yeah, Lee, over to you.
Sorry.
Yeah, was the question, your answer to the question, how would you advise anybody looking to start a studio or starting a studio to stand out?
Ah, um, I mean, do what you believe in. So your studio has to have a guiding philosophy. Like
Yeah.
Mary said, why are you guys creating an agency? If there's a specific, like there's a studio called Studio Headstrom, and if you check their portfolio, they are basically just servicing the music industry.
Spotify.
Like, like it just feels around that sector. Most of their stuff is around music and whether it's music tech. But around culture, I know that they've already defined who they are representing. There's
Yeah.
and Walsh, where is a women-led brand where they want to take on specific projects. There's Justified Studio. I think Justified Studio they do environmental work a lot. So work like the Nat Geo, things that involve preserving the world. So just figure out what your guiding philosophy is. Oh, at this studio, we only want to work in a maybe in a certain industry, or we really want to do this type of work, or our guiding philosophy is quality work, or our guiding philosophy is work around like culture. When you can figure that out, I think it will make you almost you won't fully niche down, but you become recognizable as like a leader in a specific area. I also
Yeah.
think another thing again, if to stand out is show the research. A lot of agencies now are just doing fluff work. Ah, we did this branding. Show the research. Show why you arrived at this decision. Because design is a bunch of either it's low or high executive decisions. Whether it's oh change the color or no, let's make it cohesive at the club, or how does it appeal to the um, children brands, the sub brands, all those things. So you need to be very at every point you need to know like why you're making certain decisions. You can't just come and be doing fluff stuff. So show research. And when you show research, you're doing three things. You're showing proof of the work to the client. You're educating like the general public on how good design for a certain brand. Let's say you're doing for Nike now. You're showing how like this is how to work with a sports brand within this country or this narrative or this cultural
Yeah.
context. So research, when you back research is basically heritage. If you're able to document your process, yes or now people can it can be what to make is what has made like pentagram still relevant till today. Because the same philosophy they've used from the past, anybody that comes in is adapting that philosophy and making it work. Is why fourth canvas would exist for maybe another 40 years and everybody here is probably in their old age, and you are seeing younger executive at Fort Canvas, but they are embodying the philosophy of the founders. And the only way they can embody that philosophy is by documentation, because they now study. Oh, this is how Victor used to approach strategy. This is how Mary used to approach color. This is how Twin used to approach this certain thing. This is what can guide. Again, it's what keeps your brand authentic throughout the years. Is how this Wyden and Kennedy that have been around for how many years, they are still producing quality work that aligns with what their co-founders intended for it. And at some point, the founders can also pivot and change the idea. So it doesn't mean what was there 100 years ago still has to stick. I think a
Yeah.
good executive would be somebody that look at it and like, okay, this is all good, but how do we adapt it for the modern times? We know now in the future, whatever they are doing, they are going to have to adapt to AI and see how they can incorporate. Meanwhile, the previous generation before probably didn't think AI should be part of creative solutions. So you can't be dog-headed. Well, as long as there's documentation, is good for it helps the next generation transition without losing sight of the best example for this is fashion houses. Once you enter a Louis Vuitton, you're going to go to the archive and go and look at what has been done in the past. Like it's there. The all the heritage is proper documented. You can see what um um the first Balenciaga guy, I forgot his Esteban Balenciaga or something. You can see what he designed in 1870 something. You can see how like Jonathan Anderson's new Dior collection, it went back into the past to go and reference silhouettes that the original Christian Dior did and was on the first runway, but adapted it to this generation. So those kinds of things, documentation will help you preserve your essence as an agency throughout. So it's very important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Ni. Thank you very much, Mary. Thank you very much, Ameji. So we've come to the end of the panel session, and I hope you guys have learned a lot. You guys who are looking to make the shift, or maybe now you are starting to think like I can make the shift. I hope this is enough practical knowledge from guys who are doing this already. from my journey, from their journeys, to see how you can go about yours, how you can make that transition, the things you need to do. And this video will always be live, will always be on Glyn's YouTube account. So you can always reference it from time to time when you need these words of wisdom from these amazing people. Thank you everyone for joining. Um, you know, I will be amazed if I don't thank every person who has helped me on this journey, from my dad to my mom and all my siblings, to my girlfriend who has supported me in every single step of
Oh.
every single step of this journey. To my friends, there's nothing I can do with my friends. These guys have been amazing. Akin Theodox, Akin Binu Akitayo 47, Ameji,
Why is
God
my
bless you
name
guys.
third?
Sorry?
Why is my name third? Okay, it's based
Uh,
off
alphabetically.
alphabetically. Okay.
Always come first. Alice Oga, Chisa, Collins Odo. I can, that guy is so amazing. He's my own Tife. You understand? He's my own boss. Comfort Adetoro, Deji Ajetomobi of Wise, Femi Gray, Funsho Felix. Funsho was one of the first people I spoke to about. I just wanted to get his experience running the studio. Jafet Onoje, we've collaborated so many times of projects. Joshua Derry Bigbe, he actually gave me the idea of doing a live stream. I was just going to write an article and say, hey guys, I've started a studio. But he was like, why don't you make noise about it? And I did. Kilani Ibrahim, he was the one who worked on Glyn Studios Reel. Peace Eduru, Teslim Abu, he's been collaborating with me on projects. I didn't do this alone, and I'm not going to do this alone, but and shout out to the design OGs, Bolanle Banwo. She was supposed to be here, but the timing didn't work out. Carv, we are going to be hearing from her tomorrow. Elvis Obi was also supposed to be a guest speaker yesterday of Maze Rants, but he also couldn't make it. Jordan Belonwu. So Jordan is one of the first people who agreed to be on a Glyn space and the deep dives that I mentioned yesterday. So, big shout out to him. Leia was also supposed to be here, but also couldn't make it. Mary Nee, God bless you guys. Thank you very much. Sheyi, Ogbeni Sheyi was also one of the first people I spoke to. And, he gave me a lot of tips. Tunji Ogunoye, every time. I just spoke with Tunji last week, Sunday, just to run everything through him, and he still gave me some actionable things. He also told me make as much noise as you can, and I think I've made enough noise, but I will still make more. And to the community, God bless all of you. Thank you all of you for joining. Over 400 people yesterday, over 400 people today. Also, big thank you to Katie Cowan, the founder of Creative Boom. He was also one of the first people I was opportune to speak to. Sky Antonio is also somebody who has agreed to be on Glyn Space in the coming months. And to all my clients, I think some of them are here, but Adidas, Durian, FedTramp, Avon, Intersect, Licky Paywall, Mercury, Munch, Simplify, Vibrate, Warsaw. God bless you all. Thank you all for being a part of my journey. And I don't take your support, I don't take your love for granted at all. So tomorrow we'll be launching the first Glyn Space on X, and we'll be having Chisa Jobosin, Carv, and Femi Gray to come and talk to us about making the leap. So these are people who are starting their journeys in starting the studio, or they are looking at making the transition. And we'll also just hear from them. If you guys think the experience of Nee, Mary, and Ameji are so far, you also hear from people who are also just starting out to make it not as scared as it seems. But all experiences are needed, all advices are needed. And so the Glyn Space will be happening every 2 Fridays in each month. So the second Friday and the fourth Friday. And we'll be talking to design leaders in the industry. We'll also be talking to growth leaders in businesses and companies, people who lead marketing teams, who lead growth teams, founders, if we're able to bring some of them on board to just understand how they see design. So if you as a creative are wondering, what is my job as a brand designer? What is my role in an organization? How can I make a difference? Those are some of the conversations we are going to be talking about. The business of design. How can you be a better designer? How can you better articulate your value? How can you make more from your skill? So those are the conversations we'll be having on the Glyn Spaces. And on the Glyn Dives, that'll probably come in Q2 of this year. Just like what Nii was talking about standing out, we want to see the behind the scenes of the work the studios are doing, so we can learn from the iterations of those processes. And so studios will come on board through live streams too, hopefully, because this live stream is costly, but we will see if that is possible. But through live streams, so that we can also see behind the scenes of some work, not the polished case study, but the iterations, and we can learn from that. Those are part of the plans Glyn have for the community, and I thought based on them yesterday, and you start seeing them roll out from next month. Again, thank you everyone for joining. God bless you all. Thank you, Nii. Thank you, Mary. Thank you, Ameji, for joining this. I mean, I know it was short notice for everybody, but again, thank you for honoring me, and thank you for being a part of my journey. I appreciate you all. I'll see you guys again. So this is the end of the live stream, and God bless everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
And congrats again.
Thank you very much. All right, guys. Bye. See you all on the streets of Twitter.